right, Matt, let's talk about a guy you're going to be fading. Who is somebody you want no part of in your lineup?
So Jeff Teague was the guy I mentioned last game. I still don't want to play him. I think Chris Paul, if I have to pick one of the top six, is the guy that I want the least of. But I'll go a little off script and pick a lineup combination that I think a lot of people might wind up on that I just don't want. I just don't want any part of this. So Giannis at captain with Paul, Ayton, Connaughton, Cam Johnson, and Cam Payne uses up exactly all of the salary. And that group, like, it could win. I think that might be the highest upside lineup on this slate, just the combination of price and good players. But those six players, I think if that lineup comes in first, there could be 6, 7, 800 ties for first place in the biggest GPP. So if you're okay with that, maybe that's your cash lineup, whatever it is. I think that'll be an incredibly popular lineup just because of the slate dynamics we've talked about.
All right, Nick, what's your take? Who are you fading, or what grouping are you fading?
First of all, I think that's true. I think people love using up exactly the all the salary budget, and for some reason, that tends to be really appealing. I don't feel comfortable saying I'm like, you have to fade one of the top six guys, because I mean, for as much as people want to believe that Chris Paul is at like 50% and dealing with some sort of injury, he was still 40 plus DraftKings points in Game 5. He still had a double in that game. Certainly looked healthy when he was draining threes and handing out assists and blowing by Pat Connaughton late in the fourth quarter of that game. So I'm not convinced that Chris Paul is just going to come out and flop in what's arguably now the biggest game of his career. So for me, I'm going to look to a role player. I'm fading Brook Lopez. I think if you look at the other guys who are priced around him, you're going to have to choose probably two of these 4 or 5 guys. Jay Crowder, McCall Bridges, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis. All 4 of those guys have outscored Brook Lopez in terms of fantasy points over the last 3 games. Lopez is 2 of his last 13 from beyond the arc. One way to look at that is that he's due. One way to look at it is that the Bucks are still really struggling when he's out there. His minutes have really fluctuated game to game. We have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. A lot of it is game flow, how well Bobby Portis is playing, how many fouls Brook Lopez has. And the thing with him as a center is if he's not hitting threes, they don't really feed him all that much on the block, probably not as much as they should. And he also doesn't rebound. He's like the worst rebounding center in the league. So if he goes 0 for 3 from 3-point range, he might only get you 2 rebounds, and you're basically looking at a complete dud from that roster spot.